the new MyLowe's Pro Rewards American Express card, earn 3 points per dollar spent on Lowe's qualifying purchases for the first 6 months after card account opening. Plus, save 5% every day on eligible purchases at Lowe's and earn points on eligible purchases everywhere else Amex is accepted. Card members get more at Lowe's. Subject to credit approval. 5% can't be combined with any other offer. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Points subject to loyalty terms at Lowe's.com/terms and credit reward terms at Synchrony.com/MLPRA-terms. Visit Lowe's.com/business credit.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. In November of 1963, a photographer captured a small boy crawling out from underneath a desk in the Oval Office. The boy was John F. Kennedy Jr. The desk was a gift from a queen, built from the timbers of a ship that had been abandoned for dead in the Arctic ice 9 years before that ship was even broken up for lumber. The photo was published just weeks after his father's assassination. It became one of the most recognizable images of the 20th century. Almost nobody who saw it knew the story behind the wood the boy was hiding inside. It started not in Washington, but 74 degrees north of it, in the Arctic, with a ship that should have been crushed by ice and somehow wasn't. Our history brief today covers some recent history news. A quick word from our sponsors.
A burst pipe, a dead water heater, the AC calling it quits. Who do you call? HomeServe is an easy way to handle unexpected home repairs, with plans covering stuff basic homeowners insurance usually won't. Instead of scrambling for a contractor, you make one call to get the repair process started. Join the millions of customers who trust HomeServe right now. Go to homeserve.com/podcast for 50% less your first year. That's homeserve.com/podcast. Savings compared to renewal price. Void in Florida.
This day in history. On July 16, 1945, the United States conducted the Trinity test in the New Mexico desert, successfully detonating the world's first atomic bomb and ushering in the nuclear age. On July 16, 1969, Apollo 11 lifted off from Cape Kennedy, carrying Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins on humanity's first mission to land on the moon. Story of the day. In 1845, Sir John Franklin led a British expedition into the Arctic with 2 ships, searching for the Northwest Passage, the long-imagined sea route connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific across the top of North America. Franklin and his entire crew vanished. No survivors, no confirmed wreckage for years, just silence. Over the following decade, dozens of search expeditions set out to find him, sponsored by the British Admiralty, by private wealth, by Franklin's own widow refusing to accept that her husband was simply gone. One of those ships was HMS Resolute. In 1852, the Resolute sailed into the Arctic as part of the multi-ship search expedition under Sir Edward Belcher. It found ice instead of Franklin. By May 1854, Resolute and several other ships in the expedition were thoroughly locked in pack ice, with no realistic prospect of breaking free. Belcher gave the order to abandon ship. The crew trekked across the ice to safety, eventually making it home to England. Resolute was left behind, assumed crushed, sunk, or simply lost to the Arctic for good. But it wasn't. In September 1855, more than a year after it had been abandoned, an American whaling ship called the George Henry, captained by James Buddington, found Resolute drifting in open water near Baffin Bay. It had traveled roughly 1,200 miles on its own, carried by ice and current, completely unmanned, and somehow remained intact enough to sail. Buddington and his crew boarded it, They found it eerily preserved, sails still set, glasses still on the table in the officers' quarters, the ship sitting exactly as its crew had left it the moment they walked away. They sailed it back to Connecticut. What happened next was not really about the ship anymore. It was about a diplomatic opportunity. Relations between the United States and Great Britain in the mid 1850s were not exactly warm. Tensions over territorial disputes, naval rights, and lingering resentments from two prior wars between the two nations sat just below the surface of polite diplomacy. A wealthy American philanthropist named Henry Grinnell, who had already personally financed earlier expeditions searching for Franklin, saw in the recovered Resolute a chance to do something deliberately, symbolically generous. He proposed that the United States government purchase the ship, restore it completely, and sail it back to England as an unconditional gift to Queen Victoria. Congress agreed. The government bought Resolute from Buddington for $40,000, refitted entirely at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and in November of 1856 sent it back across the Atlantic under the command of Captain Henry Hartstein. It arrived in Portsmouth that December to enormous public fanfare. A ship Britain had abandoned for dead had been found, restored, and returned by the nation it had once gone to war against. Twice. The gesture worked exactly as intended. It became almost immediately a small but genuine symbol of goodwill between two countries that did not have an abundance of reasons to extend that kind of generosity to one another. Resolute served a few more years in British waters before being formally decommissioned in the late 1870s and scheduled to be broken apart. Someone, a naval officer years earlier, in a memo later rediscovered by a young clerk in 1879, had proposed an idea before the ship was ever dismantled: build something from the timbers. Something that would let the symbolism of the gift outlive the actual ship. Queen Victoria liked the idea enough to commission not one piece of furniture, but several. The main piece, a massive double pedestal partner's desk weighing roughly 1,300 pounds, carved from Resolute's white oak by a master joiner named William Evandene at the Chatham Dockyard, was intended specifically as a gift for the President of the United States. In 1880, it arrived at the White House as a surprise for President Rutherford B. Hayes. A brass plaque on the desk recorded the entire story in formal, almost ceremonial language: the abandonment, the rescue, the gift of the ship, and now the gift of the desk made from what remained of it. The desk did not become an immediate icon. For decades, it sat in presidential offices and studies without particular fanfare, used by some administrations, stored away by others, modified twice along the way. In 1945, a knee-hole panel was added, carved with the presidential coat of arms, after President Truman requested a small modification. It moved rooms more than once during White House renovations. It was not until 1961 that President Kennedy chose to place it in the Oval Office itself, where it has remained, with only a few exceptions, through every administration since. Lyndon Johnson preferred a different desk. So did Nixon and Ford, by the way. But starting again with Jimmy Carter, the Resolute desk became something close to a fixture. The desk most Americans now picture almost reflexively when they imagine the seat of presidential power. The desk in the Oval Office, the surface where the Cuban Missile Crisis was managed, where countless executive orders have been signed, where photographers have captured decades of presidents at the center of the world's attention, exists because of a ship that was given up for lost. Resolute was abandoned in the ice by men who sailed it. It survived anyway, drifted home on its own, and ended up rebuilt into a single, most photographed piece of furniture in American political history. The History Brief. Today, on some history news, we're headed deep into the jungles of southern Mexico, where archaeologists have uncovered an ancient Maya city that had remained hidden for more than 1,000 years. And unlike many famous archaeological sites, this one was not sitting beside a tourist trail. It was so remote that researchers had to hack their way through more than 3 miles of dense jungle just to reach it. According to reporting from the Smithsonian Magazine, the newly discovered city lies within the Calakmul Biosphere Reserve in the Mexican state of Campeche. Because there were no old logging roads or established paths leading to the site, archaeologists named it Minabe, derived from Maya words meaning roughly there is no road. The isolation turned out to be a blessing. Unlike many Maya sites that have suffered centuries of looting, this one appears remarkably well preserved. Archaeologists describe it as the first largely intact ancient Maya city their team has discovered in several years. The city dates primarily to the late Classic period, between about 600 and 900 CE, the final centuries before many of the great Maya cities of the southern lowlands were abandoned. At its heart stands a 43-foot high pyramid, surrounded by plazas, residential complexes, carved stone monuments, and ceremonial altars. It's those monuments that have archaeologists especially excited. Many are decorated with finely carved figures and hieroglyphic inscriptions. Researchers hope these inscriptions may reveal the city's original ancient name, identify its rulers, and perhaps even shed light on its relationships with nearby Maya kingdoms. So, why does another Maya city matter? Well, because the Maya collapse remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Beginning in the late 8th and 9th centuries, many of the great cities of the southern Maya lowlands experienced dramatic political upheaval. Monument construction slowed, populations declined, and many urban centers were eventually abandoned. Yet scholars increasingly believe there wasn't a single cause. Climate change, warfare, political instability, environmental stress, and shifting trade routes may all have played a role. Minabe was occupied during this critical period. That means it may preserve valuable evidence of what life looked like just before sweeping changes transformed the Maya world. Did its rulers struggle with the same challenges seen elsewhere? Did the city decline gradually or disappear suddenly? These are the questions archaeologists now hope to answer. Perhaps the most remarkable part of the story is that discoveries like this are still possible elsewhere. Anyway, sometimes all it takes is a machete, a long hike through the rainforest, and a willingness to follow a path where there isn't one. A lost city, hidden for over 1,000 years, now offering archaeologists a new window into one of history's greatest civilizations, and one of its greatest mysteries. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you're enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both of those links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel where we have different series and videos that are not part of this main feed. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all again tomorrow.
Why spend thousands on a basic will when you can get access to legal help for around $1 a day? With Legal Shield, you can put a full estate plan in place, including a will, health directives, and powers of attorney to help protect your family and hard-earned assets. Sign up today at LegalShield.com and get 10% off our annual plans. It's finally simple and affordable. Legal Shield. Real lawyers, really affordable. Sign up at LegalShield.com. That's LegalShield.com. Legal Shield does not provide legal representation or advice. See a plan for complete terms.